What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Counter Punch podcast. Yes, you heard that right. We are no longer the hook shot. We are now the Counter Punch. We have rebranded, and we are looking forward to the future. If you're new to these, my name is Lucas Cohen. His name, Rohan Borges. And before we break down UFC 299, one of the best cards of the entire year, one of the best cards we've seen in a long, long time. As I mentioned at the top, we've rebranded. A lot of goals for the future. What are your overall thoughts?
Dude, I'm so excited for this next chapter, this new chapter of the Hookshot Pod, now known as the Counter Punch Podcast. We are so excited to keep bringing you guys that same UFC martial arts related content that you guys know and love. We're just going to keep it coming and stay along with us. Stay with us on the ride. We're just going to the top, baby. I already know.
Damn right. I don't see why we don't get right into it. Let's start with the first early prelim on the card, the very first fight. Marina Moroz taking on Joanne Calderwood, or as she now calls herself, Joanne Wood. This is a fight in which I think Marina Moroz wins. I think Joanne Wood is not the Joanne Wood of the past. I mean, she's going from having high-level fights with, top competition to winning a very, very, very close fight with Luana Carolina. I feel like people may be a little bit down on Marina Moroz after her last fight against Karine Silva, in which she got submitted in round one. Not the best look that was, but I do think Marina Moroz will get this one done. I just think she's better everywhere. She's the younger fighter. Joanne Wood, 38 years old, I believe. I mean, that's insane, especially for strawweight, or flyweight. It's a flyweight fight, apologies. I just think Marina Moroz is better everywhere, and I think she wins a decision 29-28 or 30-27.
I got to agree with you, man. I think it comes down to the age is the biggest factor. I mean, you look at Joanne Wood, she's fought a lot of tough challengers in that division. She's gone up against guys like you mentioned, what was her name? Luana Carolina. That was a great matchup. Alexa Grasso, another tough opponent. She lost that one, but no shame in that. Tyler Santos, another title challenger. Like, she's seen a lot of the best in that division. But again, it comes down to the fact that she's 38 years old. And that last fight, I mean, I wasn't all that impressed. It was a split decision. It could have gone either way. I think at this point in her career, Marina Moroz is just younger. Faster. I think that's a real big advantage in a fight that I think stays on the feet for the majority of the time. So I think she has the bigger moments, and I'm going to take Marina Moroz to win by decision as well. I agree with you 100%.
Let's keep it right there and move on to the next fight in the card. Asu Almabaev taking on CJ Vergara. I absolutely love Asu Almabaev in this matchup. I think it's a perfect stylistic matchup for him. He's not going to gas out. He's not Daniel Da Silva, who hurt CJ Vergara badly in round one and then just death gassed. He's also not Vinicius Salvador, who sucks. This is Asu Almabaev. I feel like when this fight's on the feet, it will be competitive. They're probably 50-50, but as soon as the fight hits the mat, it's going to be a whole different world for CJ Vergara, and I think Asu Almabaev will dominate this fight, maybe get a sub. It's a sub or a decision. I'll just say Asu Almabaev wins by submission. I think he finishes CJ Vergara, and I think this is probably my most confident pick on the entire card.
Yeah, man, I gotta agree with you once again. I think a submission is a real likely outcome here. Vergara never been knocked out in his career. He's pretty durable. We saw in the Lacerda fight, that was really funny. He got hurt and then started running around the octagon. Like, his striking is decent. It's nothing to scoff at, but it's nothing, above average either. So it's pretty ordinary. But Asu Almabaev, his plan, his path to victory is very, very simple and clear. I think once he takes it down to the mat, he immediately goes for the rear naked choke. I think 4 of his last 5 wins have come by rear naked choke. So that is always what he looks for. And I think it'll be there. Those opportunities will present themselves in this fight. So I think rear naked choke submission is going to be my pick as well.
Yep, we're locked in on Asu Almabaev in that matchup. Let's move on to the next fight in the card. Robelis Despaigne versus Josh Parisian. Robelis Despaigne.
Did you see the Josh Parisian hype tape that dropped today?
I did.
Did you see?
I did.
Oh my god!
I did. I saw.
I'm so hyped for this one, bro.
Josh Parisian. What was he doing? He was doing like some foot exercise.
Oh my god, bro! Like, we're working with the exercise ball, going in and out, jumping to a lot of cardio. Man, he's ready, man. This is a sleeper heavyweight, Josh Parisian. I don't think a lot of people are ready for this guy.
If you couldn't tell, he is joking, and Josh Parisian's probably the worst heavyweight on the roster, and he's taking on Robelis Despaigne, who's a guy on the amateur scene I've had my eye on for a long time. I don't know how much research you've done on Despaigne, but
I've seen a little bit.
Do the people a favor and go to his Tapology right now. Click his name and read to me how fast his finishes are.
Dude, all right. So he's 4-0. Finishes first round 12-second knockout. First round 3-second knockout. First round 4-second knockout in his last 3 fights.
Absolutely
That's insane. And the other one also came in the first round, just at the end. 6 seconds left in the round. So this dude is just a menace in the first round. That is crazy. How?
I don't know. He's got that Ngannou death touch, but at the same time, he's a versatile kickboxer, which is why I think this guy's a problem. Here's the thing. We haven't really seen him tested on the mat, and we haven't really seen him tested in round 2 or round 3 whatsoever. He's only fought in round 1, and most of his fights have ended within 15 seconds. But I have to pick him here because Josh Parisian's that bad. If there's a matchup for Robelis Despaigne to get exposed, it's not this one. I think Despaigne knocks Parisian out within the first 30, 50 seconds.
Yeah, I gotta agree. Like you just said, I mean, the one path to mess up Robelis' game plan is to try to implement the ground game in the wrestling. With Josh Parisian has none of. Like, he is not a threat on the ground. He's gonna be a stand-up fighter the entire time, and I couldn't agree more. I think we see just a complete burst from the outset, and it's a first round knockout for Despaigne. He keeps that streak going. So yeah,
I mean, Josh Parisian's a guy that made Martin Buday
there's a lot of heavyweights in the UFC that just the heavyweight division exposes how bad you are when you're truly bad because you're slower. All your mistakes are kind of just magnified. It's just bad, man. And Josh Parisian is one of the worst in the division for sure.
I think we see a spectacular knockout, and I'm really looking forward to see where Robelis Despaigne goes. I mean, I believe he's 30.
He's 35. So I mean,
but at heavyweight, that's not bad at all.
Exactly. That's true. That's true.
He's looked really, really, really good. And could this guy be a future champion? Who knows? Let's move on to the next fight on the card. The next 2 or 3 fights are very hard to call, in my opinion. This one being the hardest: Phillipe Lins versus Ion Cutelaba. And what's really, really strange is the odds for UFC 299 for all the fights have been out for a while now. Mm-hmm. Except for one fight. Ion Cutelaba versus Phillipe Lins. And they didn't have odds yesterday, and I'm looking at it now. They just dropped odds today. Ion Cutelaba versus Phillipe Lins. Ion Cutelaba is a minus 130 favorite to Lins plus 110. Here's the thing about Phillipe Lins. He just has a way to slow fights down. Ion Cutelaba is talented. He has a lot of potential. But here's the problem with Cutelaba. He's an idiot. He's a wild card. This guy gasses out. I feel like Ion Cutelaba, if he wanted to win this fight, he could win this fight. But there's too many things you have to rely on when it comes to a guy that's so dumb in that octagon. I don't know. I feel like I should be picking Cutelaba. My mind's telling me Cutelaba, but my gut is just telling me Phillipe Lins is going to somehow win this one. So, I don't know. Don't bet on this fight at all. This is a very, very, very close fight. Probably a 50-50 fight, but I'm going to pick Phillipe Lins by decision.
Yeah, definitely agree with the fact that this is not a betting fight at all. But it was scheduled before, and I gave a prediction already, so I'm going to stick with it. Ion Cutelaba, that's my pick. I think on paper, he has all the skills, all the tools he needs to win this fight. Again, to your point, he's a wild card, and that's what makes this fight so tough to call. It's just that he does not stick to a game plan. He doesn't listen to his coaches like he should. And Lins is a veteran. Like, he does know how to slow the fight down. But so is, like, if we're just talking about veteran and experience in the octagon, Ion Cutelaba's been in there with, a lot of different guys, man. So he's seen a lot. I think at this stage in his career, he just needs to prove himself a little bit more. And I think he's gonna do that in this spot, a spot where he should and could absolutely win and make it look easy. So I'm going to pick Iwan. I'm not confident in it at all, but that's going to be my pick. I'll say inside the distance as well. I say he gets a finish.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say we both don't have the best read on this fight. It's very, very hard to call, and I wouldn't really listen to our prediction on this one because I honestly think it could go either way. Sure. Let's move on to the next fight on the card. Michel Pereira versus Michal Oleksiejczuk. Another one that is very, very hard to call, in my opinion. Oleksiejczuk looked really good in his last fight against Chidi Njokuani. On the flip side, Michel Pereira made his 185-pound debut in his last fight against Andre Petrosky. Absolutely drowned him and destroyed him. Round 1, vicious KO. This one's hard. Because we don't know how good Michel Pereira is at 185. However, he's another guy who's a wild card, who gasses out, who will be really dumb in the octagon. But I'd say he's much more talented than Ion Cutelaba. Michel Oleksiejczuk is really good, though. He's got some heavy hands. But I think if Michel Pereira fights smart, he wins this. I think this guy's really, really talented. Like, really talented. If he's just able to keep his wits about him and fight smart and not do backflips in the octagon and not dance around. You can still be fun from time to time, but please, be smart, Michel Pereira, and you'll probably win this fight. I'm picking him to win this one. Again, low confidence because, this guy's crazy.
Yeah, I got to agree with you again, and it comes down to being smart, fighting the right way. But I would like to point out that Michel Pereira has not lost a fight since February of 2020. Yes, it was against Diego Sanchez. Yes, he did lose before that to Tristan Connolly, but it was at a different weight class. And now he's been on a 6 fight win streak right now. He's currently on, and he's just got all the momentum in the world. I don't see it stopping against a guy that, look, like, it's a step up. Oleksiejczuk is very good for sure, but he's not, just extraordinary in any one thing. And Michel Pereira is such an extraordinary athlete. I think that's the thing that people really gravitated towards at the beginning of his career, and people thought, that he could be a UFC title contender. It's just because look at the guy; he's a freaking specimen. It's just that he does not really know how to use those abilities to the best of his advantage. So I just think that overall he's got the advantages on the feet in this fight. There's not too much to worry about anywhere else. And I think I'm going to pick him by decision. Yeah, it'll be a close fight for sure. Don't get me wrong. His opponent is very, very tough. But I think it'll be a close decision win.
You go Michel Pereira by decision. I'm going to say he gets him out of there. Michel
Let me
Oleksiejczuk,
see,
he's been knocked out. He got knocked out recently by, what's his name? I'm blanking.
Hold on. Let me see.
No, he got submitted by Kyle Baraya.
By Baraya.
Has he ever been knocked out?
And
I believe he got knocked out by Olberg,
one time.
By Olberg?
Olberg. Yeah, true. And there's no shame in that.
Obviously not.
I mean, but yeah, it's a bad loss. It's a bad loss nonetheless.
His chin probably, it's not the best, but
Yeah.
I think he can get hurt, and I think Pereira will do that if he fights smart. Let's move on to this next fight on the card: Kyler Phillips versus Pedro Munhoz. This is a fun fight. Pedro Munhoz coming off a very, very, very close loss to the main event in this card, Chito Vera. I don't know. I think Kyler Phillips should win. We really don't know how good this guy is. I mean, he came back after a steroid suspension, fought Raoni Barcelos, looked really good, was able to pitter-patter his way to a decision, stand on the outside, outpointing Barcelos. And I think he should be able to do the same thing here. Munhoz shorter than Barcelos. Munhoz is definitely better than Barcelos, but at the same time, this guy's 37. We know he's not making any more improvements. I think this is a close decision, similar to the Chito Vera fight, except Phillips won't get into the war as much as Vera did. I think he'll look to pop that jab, and I think popping that jab will probably win his fight. I think he'll drop around for sure. This is a fight I'm probably staying away from again from a betting perspective, but I do think Kyler Phillips wins a 29-28 decision against Pedro Munhoz, who's very hard to finish. I don't believe he's never been finished.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, he's one of the toughest guys in the division, but this is a great spot, in my opinion, for a guy like Kyler Phillips, who's so explosive with his actions and his movements, whether it's on the feet or in the wrestling department. He is just a wild card, but in a good way, because he's pretty effective when he does have those explosive actions. And I think he's going to have the bigger moments in this fight throughout the 15 minutes, which I think is going to sway the judges. Like, if you look at a lot of Pedro Munhoz's fights, like, he's losing a lot of close decisions because his style is a little conventional and boring. Not boring, but it's just too simple, for the judges. He doesn't do anything too crazy. His big moments are usually a damaging leg kick or a nice jab. Like, Phillips is going to be able to evade a lot of those and land the bigger shots on the counter, I think. So, this fight will probably stay on the feet. Munhoz so durable, I don't see a finish, but I do agree that Phillips will have the bigger moments and probably win 2 of 3 rounds. So, yeah, I think a 29-28 decision is probably the most likely outcome.
Yeah, I'd say he drops the second round probably, but I do think.
Yeah, Munhoz is a veteran. It'll be a close fight for sure, but Phillips is he's young, man, and he did pop for PEDs, but I think
it was like Osterine. He was out for a year and a half. I don't know if he actually did drugs. A lot of the times, well, obviously he did them, but did it purposefully, to enhance his performance. We don't really know. I mean, this happens all the time in combat sports. But a year and a half off, he came back and still looked good. So,
yeah, for sure.
We're both going Kyler Phillips.
And he's got a win over Song Yadong. We got to remind the people.
He does. I can't believe he beat
He has
Song
a win,
Yadong.
Man, over Song.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That aged beautifully.
Beautifully.
We always joke about that.
Yeah.
How the fuck did Kyler Phillips... I mean, not how the fuck. I mean, this guy's good.
He's good,
But,
man.
like, Song Yadong, you see the levels now. Song Yadong, I mean, I guess he was younger back then.
Yeah,
but
a
he
little
did
bit.
beat Chito Vera as well. Song Yadong beat Chito Vera, and then he dropped one to Kyler Phillips.
Bantamweight is just such a crazy
It's
division,
stacked, man. It's stacked. Let's move on to the next fight in the card. Oh, my God. In a card that is full of bangers, you got Caitlin Chukagian Carminara versus Macy Barber plopped in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Caitlin Chukagian, a fighter in which is yet to find a finish in her entire UFC career. She's been there for, 6-7 years now. Macy Barber, she looked really good in her last fight against Amanda Ribas, but I don't know. I don't see her being able to get a finish against a taller fighter like Chukagian. Rohan, to be honest, I don't really want to talk about this one. I'll pick Barber to get on the inside. She did look very improved in her last fight. I don't think Caitlin Chukagian is making, a lot of changes. How old is Chukagian?
She's 35, I think. Wait, let me double check. Yeah, 35.
I don't think she's, making massive improvements in her career. Barber's young, looked good in her last fight, and I think she wins a decision here.
I think you just convinced me into picking Maycee Barber because I was gonna say
stick
Chukagian.
with your gut.
No, but you convinced me. Like you talked me into it, and I think it comes down to the age and the fact that Chukagian does not have any finishing ability. We've known that now for a long time. And Barber, I think, the age is probably the biggest factor in this one, as with the other women's fight on this card. I think Barber is just younger, hungry, and she actually did not look bad in her last fight. She's looked sloppy in the past, especially with her punches, because she'll just swing at the air and not really close the distance really well. But she made improvements in that area for sure in her last fight. So I think she'll have an easier time getting on the inside against a longer fighter like Caitlin. Like, she is always going to be at a reach advantage. It's the question is, does she use it? And I don't know. Maybe she does, but she's definitely not getting a finish. So I think if anybody gets a finish, it'll be Maycee. I don't see a finish, though. So I'll just say Barber gets it by decision.
Yeah, honestly, I just think this is a battle of who wants it more. I mean, at this stage in Caitlin Chukagian's career, what is she even fighting for? I mean, she's already been to the top. She's already lost. And she's recently married. She's probably focusing on that. Congrats to you, Caitlin Chukagian. I just think Maycee Barber is younger. She has aspirations for a belt. And she has more to fight for. I think she wins a 29-28 decision in a fight in which I'll probably be, spending in the bathroom, taking a piss, or maybe getting some food. Let's move on to the next fight on the card. Mateusz Gamrot taking on Rafael Dos Anjos. This one is really, really fun. I think Mateusz Gamrot, his pace and pressure is some of the best in the UFC. He's coming off a few lucky wins. I mean, that fluke against Fiziev where he tore his ACL. What else happened? He fought Jalen Turner in a very, very close fight. Won a fight against Sarukian in a very, very close fight. Fights that you could argue shouldn't have gone his way. But this is a step down, I'd say. This is Rafael Dos Anjos. Dos Anjos is, 36, 37. He keeps jumping from lightweight to welterweight, back and forth, back and forth. I really don't like that at all. I think Gamrot, he's got really good defensive wrestling. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you look at that Luque versus Dos Anjos fight. Although Luque isn't, a grappler, he's a 170er. He's a bigger guy, and Dos Anjos, was able to not get held down. I do think Gamrot will have trouble holding Dos Anjos down, but I just think the pace and the pressure will be way too much. I don't know if he gets a finish. I'll say Gamrot wins this fight by decision, but I think this is a mismatch, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, Dos Anjos is actually 39 years old, which is just crazy. I mean, the fact that this dude is still fighting the way he is, like you said, jumping up and down from welterweight and middleweight, it's like, dude, lightweight, pick a division and stay there. And Gamrot, like you said, step down. I think the Fiziev fight, he didn't look bad while it did last. Like, it was competitive for the minute and a half that it lasted. But I just think that he has every advantage in this fight. I mean, the wrestling advantage is there. He's younger, obviously, more imposing physically. And like similar to the Luque fight, I think we could see a lot of those just stale-ass wrestling exchanges where they're just holding each other up against the fence, and it is boring for those little intervals. But I do think also on the feet, the power in his hands has been proven. So I think if he connects with something, he could hurt Dos Anjos at times and have a lot of the bigger moments. So I think Gamrot decision is going to be my pick. I don't think he finds a finish. Dos Anjos is proven to be really durable. But Gamrot is more skilled in this position at this stage in their career. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I do think when it's on the feet, it'll be close. But again, I think Gamrot has, a little bit more power. Both of them, not the best strikers. But I just think Gamrot's a little bit better everywhere. And that pace and pressure will really be significant, especially because Dos Anjos keeps bouncing from these weight classes. I feel like that's really important, especially for an older guy, who's 37, right? I'm picking Gamrot to win this fight. Maybe he gets a late finish, too. I'll say a decision, though. Next fight on the card, Curtis Blaydes versus Jelton Almeida, the featured prelim. And Rohan, we got to talk about this one. Because yesterday I told you that I was so confident in Curtis Blaydes that Jelton Almeida kind of got, or you were telling me that Almeida kind of got fraud checked in his last fight against Derek Lewis.
Yeah.
And because he couldn't get the finish there. And that Blaydes is a massive step up. And I agreed. And I'm like, man, Blaydes is going to beat this guy. He's got the defensive wrestling. But you look back at the career of Curtis Blaydes. I was kind of making the argument that this guy wrestled when he was younger. He wrestled his entire life. He'll be able to, fend off takedowns from a guy in Almeida who's a 205er. If he wanted to, he could fight at 205. Blaydes will be able to, stay away from the takedowns and keep this one on the feet and win by a decision. But the more you look at it, let's pull up Curtis Blaydes' UFC stats here and look at his takedown defense. I was looking at some of his earlier fights. I mean, this guy doesn't have the best takedown defense. I mean, I got the stats right here. 33% takedown defense. Got taken down by how many times did he get taken down? He got taken down 3 times by Cody East. He got taken down 1 time by Alexander Volkov, and then only like 2 other people have ever shot takedowns on him ever. He's got a 33% takedown defense. I mean, if you're getting taken down by Volkov, that's not a good look. Like Almeida, he puts his all into those takedowns. He's got good cardio because, he should be fighting at light heavyweight. He's fighting at heavyweight at his natural walk-around weight. Rohan, I was so confident in Curtis Blaydes. Now I'm thinking it's more of a 50-50 fight. I do think Blaydes has the advantage on the feet, and I do think he will be able to stuff some takedowns. He got taken down a shit ton of times by Cody East, but obviously he's getting better. However, how much better could he be getting? I do think Jailton Almeida wins a decision. I've changed my mind.
You changed your mind? I have not. Bro, fuck that. Jailton Almeida pissed me the fuck off in his last fight. That was horrible. He laid on Derek Lewis for 25 minutes and did absolutely nothing. I mean, if Herb Dean was judging that fight like he was judging the last main event that he did, was telling him to keep work, bro, Almeida would have had to do something on the feet because, okay, you bring up the Cody East takedowns. That happened in 2016. I don't give a fuck about that. Volkov took him down once. 2020. Again, that was 4 years ago. I don't give a fuck about that. Curtis Blaydes is a wrestler. At his heart, at his core, he's a wrestler.
But Rohan,
and what? No. Listen. What Jailton did to Derek Lewis, it was so bad, not only because we knew going into that fight that he had a major advantage on the ground, but he couldn't even finish him with dominant positions. Like, Derek Lewis wasn't doing anything to advance his position from the bottom. Jailton was just laying on him, accepting the fact that he wasn't going to move. And that's not going to be the case with somebody like Curtis Blaydes. I don't care how many times he gets him down, which will be less and less as the fight goes on for sure. But in the first couple of rounds, maybe he gets Blaydes down 1 or twice, but he's not going to hold him down. He's not going to do that to Curtis Blaydes, who's a big dude, a wrestler at his heart. He knows how to get up. I think this fight does probably play out on the feet for the majority of the time. Not like the entire fight, but a lot of the time. And I think Blaydes is way better than him in that department. And I was so pissed off and unimpressed with Jailton in his last fight. Like, he was supposed to, and the line for this fight when it was announced, he was minus 350. Now he's plus 100 on some books. Like, that performance, even in a win, showed that Jailton is not really who we thought he was. So yeah, I think this is a step that he's not ready for. So Curtis Blaydes by decision.
You just went through all of his opponents, and you're like, look at who Blaydes is fighting now. But I
didn't say that. I'm just saying when he's getting taken down, they're 2016 and 2020. That's a lot of time to make.
But yeah, what I'm saying, who has he fought that has been a wrestler ever in his career?
Not many people, but I mean, also
nobody.
Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall wasn't trying to take him down.
That fight ended in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I know, but still, it's not like he was
15 seconds.
Oh my God.
Who has he fought that's a wrestler?
Nobody.
Rosenstrike, Lewis, Volkov.
But again, what is Jailton going to do if he takes him down? He's going to do nothing. He couldn't do anything to Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis is a zero on the ground.
He can hold him down.
He's not going to hold down Curtis Blaydes. You're not going to tell me he's going to hold down Curtis Blaydes. Curtis Blaydes is not going to get held down by Jailton.
But you've never seen him in that position.
Bro, because nobody wants to do that against somebody they know is a wrestler. Like, obviously, they're not going to do that to him.
I don't know, man.
Bro, fuck that. I just don't like Jailton after that last fight. I got a strong feeling that he's by decision. No. Blaydes by decision. Blaydes by decision.
Fight goes the distance. We can agree.
I can agree with that.
Who's going to get a finish? I don't really see anybody. I feel like if there is a finish, it comes from the Blaydes side. Yeah. Because Almeida couldn't fucking finish me, honestly.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next fight of the card. The first fight on the main card, Petr Yan versus Song Yadong. A fight that I'm really looking forward to, and another fight that is so hard to call. Will we see the Petr Yan of 2021? If we do, he wins this fight, and he wins this fight easily. If we don't, Song Yadong wins. It's as simple as that. We don't know what Petr Yan is going to show up. Is this guy beaten? I mean, he's just coming off a mauling from Merab Dvalishvili. Don't get me wrong. Yadong is not going to go out there and maul Yan. He's going to go give him the fight he wants on the feet. But did that mauling affect Yan? Did it affect his mental? And did it, affect his overall skill? We really don't know. You can't convince me otherwise. As I mentioned, it's literally a debate on whether we'll see 2021, 2020 Petr Yan, or we'll see the Petr Yan that's, looks defeated in that octagon. I don't know, and I'll let you go first because I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, like you just laid out, it's such a tough call. I think every book has it as a pick. I'm like minus 110, dead even. It's so close because Petr Yan, we know what this guy was and what he was as a champion, that performance over Jose Aldo, I mean, it was an older Jose Aldo for sure, but he looked incredible. And I think that's probably the likelier style that he's going to have to take in this fight, similar to the fight against Corey Sandhagen. It's going to play out on the feet. Like, he's not going to have to worry about this crazy cardio and pressure from Merab or the crazy takedowns and wrestling of Aljo. He's not going to have to worry about that. But Petr Yan still has a few flaws on the feet is the thing. Like, he's a slow starter. He takes a round usually to download data, and he's not going to be able to do that against Song Yadong in a 3-round fight where every round's going to matter. Song Yadong is durable as hell. He's young as hell. He's not going to get finished. We all know that. I don't see a finish on either side. I'm not going to lie. I don't think Yan gets finished either. I think it's going to be a freaking war for 15 minutes, and I think Song Yadong is just going to edge him out because I think that first round will be one of his statement rounds. I think he's going to have a little more of the damaging shots landed, and I just think he's in a better spot at this stage in his career, man. He's just starting to hit his prime. Yan is just on this skid that it's just hard to deny right now, and he did lose to O'Malley too, so yeah. I got Song Yadong.
And again, I feel like we can both agree that this fight probably goes the full 15 minutes. I mean, who gets a finish in this fight?
Yeah,
I mean, if Yadong can't finish Chris Gutierrez, he's not finishing Petr Yan. And Petr Yan, we know he's been beat up his last few fights. I don't see him getting a finish either against Song Yadong, who's so durable. Just look at that Corey Sandhagen fight with that big gash on his face and wanted to fight through it until the doctor stopped it. But Rohan, I'm going to have to go Petr Yan by a very, very close decision. We're forgetting what this guy is like in a striking match. You look at that Petr Yan versus Corey Sandhagen fight. Man, he's incredible. He's incredible. I mean, this is a guy who outranged a guy that's probably 4 inches taller than him. I mean, He looked really, really good in that fight. But again, I don't think we see the same Petr Yan. However, I do think he wins a very close decision. I think it could, when it hits the scorecards, it could go either way. I just think Yan will do this much more and defeat Song Yadong, but another one that's just so hard to call. And that's what makes this card so exciting. So many fights that are just all-out wars that you just want to sit back and enjoy and don't really have a strong prediction, strong lean on who's going to win.
Yeah.
But this next fight, I've got a strong take, bold prediction, and I know you do as well, and I know we have differing opinions on this. Jack Della Maddalena versus Gilbert Burns. I like Jack Della Maddalena, man. I think perfect stylistic matchup for him. As long as he fights smart and doesn't pull guillotine like he did against Basil Hafez. Gilbert Burns is chinny. Gilbert Burns is 37. Jack Della Maddalena has some of the best boxing in the UFC. I think he'll find that jab, and I'm predicting a jab TKO, just like that Kamaru Usman fight. You look at that fight, Burns knocked out by a jab. You look at that Hamzat fight, rocked badly by a jab. I do think Della Maddalena, his boxing's too good for Burns. Burns won't be making any improvements at 37 years old. I think Della Maddalena is just way too crisp for this guy, and I think he gets Gilbert Burns out of there, and I'm confident in that.
Man, look, I guess this one I will say is one of my bigger gut calls on the fight. Like, I'm just going to say what I really feel deep down, and it's that Gilbert Burns gets the job done. Look, he might be 37 years old. He doesn't look like the average 37-year-old, especially at welterweight now. Like, he still moves great. That last fight against Bilal, I don't give a fuck about it. He hurt his shoulder. Like, I thought he hurt his hand. It was a shoulder injury, which is way worse, and he still fought through that. Bilal couldn't even finish him. Well, it's Bilal. He can't finish anybody. But I think that in this fight, honestly, I think it just might be too big of a step up for JDM. And look, I know Kevin Holland's a good fighter. He looked great in that fight. JDM looked incredible in that fight. But Kevin Holland and Gilbert Burns are very, very different fighters. Very different fighters. If you look at Gilbert Burns' last couple of wins as well, he's been able to use that wrestling because he's had an advantage. Like, obviously, Bilal Muhammad didn't wrestle him, didn't have a wrestling advantage. Hamzat didn't have a wrestling advantage, didn't wrestle him. He stood there and struck with him and ate a lot of big shots in that fight. Another thing that I just think is a testament to his chin. But I really think, look, the Masvidal win used his wrestling a lot. Neil Magny submitted him. Stephen Thompson destroyed him with the wrestling. Like, I think he's going to go back to the well on the ground in this fight. And I think he's just going to outpoint JDM. Look, he is a great fighter, a young fighter. I think he has a very bright future in the sport. But Gilbert Burns is a seasoned veteran. And at full strength, I still think he has a lot to show. And I think he's going to get the job done. That's just what I feel deep down, man. It's tough to call. But every fight is, so yeah.
But JDM keeps going 15 minutes. Like, he's getting that octagon experience. And it's not like he's doing it against bad competition either.
It's not the same, bro. This dude, Gilbert Burns, look, he's fighting Bilal, Jorge, Chimaev. You can't even, bro, that Chimaev fight alone. And I know it was, at this point, 2 years ago. But, man, he impressed everybody they were cheering at the end of the fight for him just because he put on such a show when people thought he would probably get destroyed by Khamzat. I think the durability is still there at this age, and he has the advantages on the ground for sure. Like, I am not going to be convinced otherwise on that fact.
But you're convinced, you're comparing styles. I think that's where you're lost.
Styles make fights. What you mean?
Yeah, but you're saying
Gilbert
Burns put up a war.
Styles make fights, which is why he's not the same as Kevin
Gilbert
Holland.
Burns put up a war against Khamzat Chimaev. You are 100% correct. But look at Khamzat Chimaev. This guy's incredibly talented, but has zero head movement. And all Burns was doing was popping that jab and overhand, jab, overhand every time. Khamzat Chimaev's head does not move.
Can I tell you one more thing?
What?
Again, I said it before. Gilbert Burns, whenever he has a clear advantage on the ground, he will go to it. Every time. Kamaru Usman didn't have an advantage, didn't wrestle him. Khamzat didn't do it. Bilal didn't do it. But every other time when he knows I can take this guy down and I can hold him and I can probably submit him, he does it. And I think he can do it in this fight. JDM has nothing for him on the ground. Nothing for him. So I think that's
But
my
how do
gut
you know
there.
he's going to be able to get him down there? As long as
It's Gilbert Burns. JDM was freaking jumping guillotines against Hafez and shit, bro.
but
He's not experienced on the ground
as a pro,
at this level. This is a BJJ black belt. He submits the world's best in jiu-jitsu. You tell me that all the time.
as a prospect, you got to make those mistakes to improve. I mean, you got to know that. You got to think that he and his team have gone back to that fight and have looked at the tape and said, don't jump guillotine anymore. And he says, okay, I'll just defend the takedown. Gilbert Burns, how much physical strength does he even have left at 37?
I mean, that's still a question for sure, but I think look, it was an injury in his last fight, so it's hard to call. It's hard to judge where he's at in his career, but I don't really believe that he's given us any evidence to suggest that he's fallen off at any point, and especially physically. And you look at JDM's opponents, like Randy Brown, good win. You subbed him, but it's Randy Brown. Like Kevin Holland, Basil Hafez is probably the most talented all-around fighter between those three. It's kind of tough to call because Gilbert Burns, again, and this is just hard to deny for me, it's a big step up. Like, no matter what you want to say, Kevin Holland to Gilbert Burns, look, the names might not be that big of a difference, but the talent is for sure. So, yeah, this is just my gut, man. I could definitely see JDM piecing him up for 15 minutes, looking clean on the feet, and impressing us all. But I think Gilbert Burns will remind us why he's been hanging around the top of this division for a long time now.
I think Gilbert Burns will show us that he is washed, doesn't belong in the top 10 anymore, and is turning 38 in July, which is kind of crazy. But I'm glad we got a debate there. Let's move on to the featured fight on this card, Kevin Holland versus Michael Page. Another fight in which I have a very strong belief in, and I'm probably more confident in this than Jack Della Maddalena. I think Kevin Holland wins. You can't go from a bare knuckle fight against Mike Perry in which you get absolutely dominated by bare fists to the temple, and then go fight Kevin Holland in the UFC, one of the best fighters in the welterweight division. I just think that this is not the time for Michael Page to make the transition to the UFC. Not a good matchup. I think he should be fighting unranked fighters. You look at his wins in Bellator, they're cans. He got slumped by Diego Lima. Bad knockout. Now he's taking bare fists to the face against Mike Perry, one of the best bare knuckle fighters in the world, and now he's fighting Kevin Holland. He's 36 or 37, right?
Yeah, 36 years old.
I think this is a perfect stylistic matchup for Kevin Holland. As long as Holland, again, another wild card, fights smart, doesn't do his talking bullshit, he wins this fight, and I think he gets Michael Page out of there.
Really, that's interesting. I don't think we see a finish, but I gotta agree with basically everything else you just said. Like Michael Page, it was clear that when he made this switch, he had the Michael Chandler plan in mind. Like that's what he wanted. He wanted to come in here, take on a big name, take him out, and then go straight to the top. I don't think that's going to happen for him. He's 36 years old, like you mentioned. And look at the guys he's beating. His best win is Douglas Lima. A lot of people watching this don't even know who that is. And, like, man, you're fighting Kevin Holland, who, look, Kevin Holland likes to talk a lot. I think at the end of the day, this fight was made for pure entertainment purposes. It's a winnable fight for Page. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's going to be on the feet for the most part, even though that's the thing with Kevin Holland is that, like, if he wanted to take the fight to the ground, he has a 100% clear advantage down there. It's just that he never does that. And Michael Page is going to be, lobbying for this one to be a striking match for sure. So I think it'll be fairly competitive, but I do see Kevin Holland just edging him out just because he's younger and, in my opinion, more talented. I mean, he is a striker at the end of the day as well, and he's very good. And yeah, like you said, a little too late for Michael Page. And like, what does he think? He's gonna beat Kevin Holland and then beat, like, who's he gonna fight after that? I don't know, man. He's not gonna get the Michael Chandler treatment, is my point. So yeah, I think this is a good spot for Kev.
Also turning 37 in a month. Another fighter that's only getting older. Yeah. I think Holland just is better in this stylistic matchup, and I'll pick him to win this fight by KO. Yeah, you heard that right. Let's move on to the co-main event, Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint-Denis. A lot of people are on Saint-Denis in this one. I'm going to pick him to win here, but this one is harder to call, I do think. Just because, this is a massive step up for Saint-Denis. Regardless where Poirier is in his career, we know how good this guy is. He's seasoned, and he's one of the best fighters at lightweight, despite coming off a knockout. Benoit Saint-Denis going from Matt Frevola to Dustin Poirier. That's massive. That's a massive step up. This one's tough to call. I'm going to go BSD. I think the grappling is too much for Poirier. But, again, I think this one goes the distance, and I think Poirier takes a round or two. Maybe he gets a decision that's very close. I don't know. I think this is closer than people think. I feel like my gut's telling me Poirier, but my mind is really screaming at me take BSD, and I'm going to do that.
Man, I just love this card so much because there's so many fights where it just, you don't know. You just don't know. And it's similar to the Burns JDM fight because it's such a big step up to go from Frevola to Dustin Poirier, who's been at the top for so long. But Dustin Poirier, man, he's coming off such a brutal knockout that it's really hard to pick him in this spot against BSD, who is known for his power. I mean, I think 31% of his finishes have come by knockout, and this guy has 9 submission victories, so he's definitely a threat on the ground as well. And me and you were talking earlier, we've seen Dustin Poirier in a lot of compromising positions on the ground. We went to that Chandler fight live, and it felt like he was held down for like minutes at a time, being able to do nothing. Nothing against Michael Chandler on the ground. And I think BSD could definitely find a finish early if he's able to get it there. But the thing that my mind keeps telling me is that, man, this is a 5-round fight. And Dustin Poirier was the one that was telling the UFC and lobbying for it to be a 5-round fight because he knows that as the fight gets longer, he has a growing advantage. And I think that might be a factor in this one because I just have a feeling that the earlier rounds will be close and the bigger shots might be landed on the side of BSD, but I think Poirier will be able to evade enough to drag it out to the later rounds where he'll start to take over because, man, we've seen it time and time again when Dustin Poirier, man, the Dan Hooker fight, one of my favorite Poirier fights of all time, he stands in there and trades with you and then starts to just advance forward and walk you down. And BSD's cardio is not really tested like that, so I think we could definitely see him dragged into the deep end here. So yeah, man, I got Poirier in a real close decision, but it's such a tough one to call because again, you could see BSD sparking him because I mean Poirier's chin is definitely in question now, but it's close. But I'm gonna go DP.
Man, I don't know. I think it's an all-out war, 5 rounds. I think it's a war, and I think it can go either way. I think you made a lot of good points there. I think you're kind of discrediting Benoit Saint-Denis' cardio a little bit. I think this guy's got really good cardio as well. However, I think he's got tendencies to get a little sloppy as the fight goes on, especially on the feet. I think 1, 2, and I'll say 5 go to Saint-Denis.
Wow, man. Now,
I think it's very close.
Look, he's younger, right? He's 28 years old, so technically he's in the middle of his prime. So, you like all the things you said, we could definitely see that come into play. But, man, Poirier's tried and tested, so I don't know, man. It's tough to call.
I agree. Definitely tough to call. I think we both agree. Another 5-round war or a decision. Sure. Yeah, for sure. Let's move on to this main event, Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera. And I'll be ending this video on another strong take. Sean O'Malley wins this fight. I think it's a great stylistic matchup for him. Horrible for Marlon Chito Vera. Yes, Marlon Chito Vera got that leg kick KO. But at the same time, that was 4 years ago. And I'd like to call that a fluke as well. I mean, he literally pushed a button on his leg. Not to sound like Sean O'Malley himself, but is he wrong? Like, he found that one spot. You look at O'Malley's recent fights, his streak to get to the title. He's been kicked in the leg a lot, and he's dealt with it fine. I think Marlon Vera will obviously get better as the fight goes on because that's what he's known for doing. But I think Sean O'Malley is just too good. I think he'll piece him up. I think we'll see a moment early where he may look like he'll get like a TKO up against the fence as the fight goes on. Again, I think it'll get closer and closer, but I think Sean O'Malley will win like a 49-46 decision. I just think he's too fast, too quick, and I just don't see Marlon Vera finding that power blow. I mean, I don't see that happening, especially against a guy like Sean O'Malley, who's just taller. You look at the Vera-Sandhagen fight.
Yeah.
Vera wasn't even able to get to Sandhagen. I think Sean O'Malley knows how to control his distance even better than Corey Sandhagen. He doesn't grapple like Sandhagen does, but I do think he's just elite on the feet, and I think Sean O'Malley will beat Marlon Vera by decision.
Yeah, I got to agree once again. I think that you just pointed out the Sandhagen fight is what really sticks out in my mind, because that one was the one you were going into thinking, oh, this is going to play out on the feet, and maybe Marlon, this is a time where he's going to prove himself against one of those top contenders. And he got shut out, man. It was bad the entire time. And I think you pointed out the length and the ability to control the distance for Sean O'Malley is such a slept-on ability of his, and he proved it in the Aljo fight. I mean, clean as day, stepping on the back foot, taking his time at a distance, pinpoint accuracy. I mean, everything about it was so beautiful. And this guy is only gaining momentum, gaining confidence as a champion. Like, I think this guy is going to reign. Well, maybe not reign because the Moroz one is definitely a questionable one if it does happen. But I think he's looking at this fight as one of those early, fights on his reign as a champion, looking like, this is one of those opponents I got to take out, because I got to prove that was a fluke, like you said, which it absolutely was. Like, there's no doubt about that. It was on the feet until it wasn't, because he couldn't walk anymore. So, I mean, you got to look at it for what it was. I think in this fight, he is much better suited to keep it on the feet the entire time. And I think he outpoints him. Probably he's never been finished in his entire career, Marlon Vera, so I don't think he gets knocked out. But I think O'Malley probably 49-46, maybe even 50-45, just because, yeah, he's just better. He laid it out. So I think O'Malley by decision's the pick.
Could not have said it any better. We 100% agree on the main event. A lot of close fights on this card, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I will be attending as well. It's going to be a blast. And, 14 fights on a card. We don't really see that too often. And 14 fights of, straight bangers. Folks, we hope you enjoyed the first video as the counterpunch. Look at us. We're breaking barriers.
Man. I'm so excited. New chapter, man. Stay with us, man. We're going to the top. Like I said, let's go, baby.
Couldn't have said it any better. For now, it's been Lucas. It's been Rohan. Peace out.
Peace.